What's happening, guys? I hope everybody had a fantastic weekend. Finally back in front of my regular trading screens as of Friday, and ended up coming home and no longer on a laptop with a couple different monitors or anything like that. So I'm excited to be back and in full strength. There's been a lot of action going on and definitely a lot of opportunity. So I want to be able to take full advantage of that. Can't always do that when you're also trying to live life a little bit. So at any rate, like I said, back full steam ahead. And I've got a couple things to cover before getting into scan tonight. First and foremost, as always, scans, obviously ideas. The idea for at least me is to get familiar with what charts look like so that when and if they do come on my intraday scans, I'm ready to go that much quicker. The idea is to stay familiar with charts, the themes, names, what's moving, what's not, what's breaking down, and things like that. So when you do review charts like this regularly, you're able to react that much quicker. It's less of a, what do I think about this? Do I think this is a short? I know, blah, 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 blah. And then all of a sudden, the trade's gone. This allows you just kind of react. And so that's why I do it. And basically, I look for where the momentum is in the market, or maybe even the lack of momentum, where it's unwinding and there's a lot of volume. So for me, some of the top things that are important is liquidity. I want a lot of volume. I don't like trading low float thin stocks. I don't want to trade something that's got 50 or 100 or a couple 100,000 volume on the day. That's not my style. My style is millions and millions and millions of shares traded, and being able to react to what's happening there, or at least joining trends. So by doing this, it allows me to focus in on when setups are forming and be able to be one step ahead of most people. And the second part of that is, in a market like this, most of the time, not in a market like this, but most of the time I'm taking 2 or 3 ideas from scan per night and trading them. The other times I'm pulling 2 or 3 ideas out of the market off the open. Usually most of the gains are coming from scan ideas because I'm prepared for them, I'm confident with them, and I kind of know what my game plan is there. Whereas the other ideas might just be kind of joining trends, reacting to the market, but they're not me coming with a big game plan on it. So in a market like this, when you wake up and there's these 100, 200, 300% type movers, you've got these MTGSs, the CODXs, VISL, CEI. I mean, those you can't prepare for the night before, right? Because they're just a new flavor every single day, and it's just whatever either whomever starts it, whatever newsletter might to start it, to be quite honest, or whatever chat room, Twitter handle, PR lights it up, pre-market. These are all the factors that really matter right now. And it could start with just 35,000 shares, like MDGS, swiped up 35,000 shares, and then it went straight to 420s, 430s. And sometimes that's all it takes. And based on how hot the market is, a lot of the gains, or at least a lot of the big opportunities, are coming from those styles versus getting prepared from scans. So no matter what, I always do the homework, no matter how the market is, because you don't know if we wake up tomorrow on Monday and there's not any 100, 200% type movers that give us that opportunity and that high liquid. At least I'm prepared. So the benefits is to always be familiar with the charts and the themes and the ideas that you like to trade. And it also lets you have a little bit of a photographic style memory where you already kind of know where the chart is, at what point in which it is in its move, and like I said, it allows you to react that much quicker. So those are the 2 little tidbits about scan and kind of being prepared for it. And then last but not least, before we get into Scan, the most exciting part, at least for me, is our annual Traders for a Cause event. So we are officially launching that. It is October 11th to the 13th. And we've got the early bird tickets going until the end of July. So we break down the cost for you, and it's right on. If you click through it, you end up going right through to the selection. You can donate as much as you'd like, but we break down exactly where the cost is going and how much goes to charity. And this year we actually brought it down a little bit just to make it more affordable for more people. We focused on cutting or at least getting better deals on certain things. We moved it back to Encore. We had a really good feedback by doing it in the Win 2 years ago. We also had some great feedback from Cosmo, but overall the prices and just the affordability was a lot better at Encore, which is the same as Win. So should be a fantastic time. I'm excited. Within the next 24 to 48 hours, we should have an updated list of the speakers currently and who's coming. And each year it gets better and better. But this year, the good part is we are on the brink of breaking $1 million donated, which is incredible. I think we're somewhere in the mid 900s, low to mid 900s that we've donated so far. And it's only been 5 years. This will be the 6th annual. So I think that's really incredible. I think it's awesome to be a part of it. When we started this, I had no idea where we'd go with it. But it ended up turning out to be an amazing journey and meeting a lot of fantastic people. All the guys that I trade with, in back and forth, talk with on the phone every single day. I have met them all in person in Vegas. So it's a great way to network. It's a great way to meet that guy that online through either a Twitter handle or an alias on a chat room. It puts a face behind the name, and let's face it, you work with them every single day, especially the guys, in IU. You come in and you work with these people every single day, and some of you have never met. So I've got a lot of great friends and a lot of great relationships by meeting people in person. And if I have any piece of advice for any new trader, it's a must. It's a must because you meet these people and you develop that relationship, and those are the guys that are going to pick you up when you need it, and they're also going to be the ones that give you the high fives and when you're doing well. But again, most importantly, when you're not, they're the guys that pick you up. They're the guys that talk you through a good trade, a bad trade, whatever the case may be. And also you guys get to fuel one another, motivate one another. It just is the one of my most favorite times of year. So we've got about a 3-minute video here. You can kind of see a little bit behind the scenes of what we do, the VIP party, the golf, a little bit of the conference itself, as well as other things throughout the weekend. So really excited about it. Again, early bird discount goes until the end of July. If you have any questions whatsoever, email zach@tradersforacause.org. A couple people have asked, a couple people that work in Vegas have asked if we need any help, that they're more than willing to help. If you guys have donation items, if you guys would like to be a part, help, etc., reach out to Zach and he'll let you know if it's something we need or not. But like I said, we broke down the cost so you can see it. And for those of you guys that have never been, just an FYI, this is not a salesy type event. We don't sublet the cost of, we try to get as many sponsors as we can to cover the cost of the event and bring down the cost and obviously get as many donations as we can. But we're not subletting the cost by having people set up, shop or pitch you on different services or pitch you on different platforms or anything like that. There's none of that here. You come in, you learn, you get a lot. You take a lot, and the networking is just top notch. So that is that on Traders for Cause. Also, we'll be doing the 6th annual, typically we do an IU center point type meetup. We've done it each year. It's been incredible. You get to meet a lot of the guys in the room as well. And this year we'll merge with Sang. I've had a lot of fun with him, especially since he's been in the office. So that's going to be another good addition to what we're doing. So that'll be a date to be determined whether or not it's going to be Thursday, Friday. I'm not sure yet, but I will let you guys know as soon as we kind of put that on the paper. So let's get into scan. So tomorrow, MDGS. Just to kind of give you guys an understanding and kind of a feel for the way that I trade these. I've talked about it quite often. But I always like to look left, right, to anticipate the right side, what may happen on the right side. And I stole that from Michelle. She, you look left to predict right. And, it's worked really, really well. And when it's over those levels, you need to be super, super cautious. That happened on VISL. So anytime that I'm shorting before it tests chart resistance, I need to be super small, super cautious. For example, if I were to look at this real quick, I would think that 350s was going to be at the top. And if you went like that on Friday and assumed that 350 was going to be the top, you might have covered into this 440 push, right? You might have been nervous. You might have thought, oh, we're going to 5 or 7 or 10 or whatever, because we've seen it lately. But for me, I always remember those numbers, and I look for the resistance to start to come in. And you'll see it does its first thing where everybody goes nuts and everybody chases it. And, oh, my God, it's going to be the next CEI. It's going to be the next VISL. And then it starts to come in and retest that chart resistance. You can see that it starts to kind of come down and find some resistance at 350. As soon as the market opens, it never sees higher. So that's a quick look of how you can kind of identify where you should be or what levels should be interesting to you. So you just take a line and go right across. This is something that we've talked about forever. This is something that I did a YouTube video on. It's free. Go to YouTube, Investors Underground, and look at the failed breakouts talk. And you can see that. You can see VVPR looking left. Look to this prior top here. You can see this was a 260 top. And imagine that. We went to 250. So there are times it breaks. I'm not saying this is, this can't be broken or bulletproof type strategy. It's not. The idea is to understand that these levels matter. VISL, same thing. You look left. Guess what? It went straight over at pre-market. So at that point, it's in a different category, right? It's above chart resistance. It's holding. And obviously, we had ridiculous volume that day. So this is a case where it's actually over that chart resistance, and it didn't actually act as top. But the next day, you can see exactly how it held. And then one other one, just to kind of drive home this point, and this is actually a trade that I had a little bit of, not necessarily FOMO, but an overstay on, like I was talking about, where I actually nailed this trade. I was in 180s, 190s, 2s, 220s. I kept on scaling into the winner. And instead of unloading into this 3 mark, I kind of just sat there and, sitting on my hands like, oh, maybe this will be the next one. And I let it kind of rip. And so it went right to 3, right into that chart resistance. And then it came all the way back down. Now, I turned a huge win into a loser. Not crazy, but again, it was so avoidable. And, had I looked left, I would have known that right away, right? You look into this, you can see that there's some resistance here at 3. This last time, it couldn't hold over 3, and then it tried 1, 2, 3, 4 more times into that 3 level, and it also held. So this is just a quick way to look and see, all right, what am I up against? And it doesn't mean that it's always going to top there, but if you've got a decent sized position or you've got a nice winner going, you should probably consider taking a little bit off. If it starts to base over that level and starts to grind up, then it's probably going to have an outlier day. It's going to have one of those days where it does have crazy range, and it does have a squeeze, and it does have big action. So at which point you can add into that winner, but at least you've locked them in because there's probably a 90% chance that it's going to fail. So anyway, that's, I unfortunately, missed that on this one, which happens. But, the key is to always remember that moving forward. So, MDGS and CODX and things like that. This is another one where, it had come up and pretty much came right back under that chart resistance relatively quickly. And also that pre-market day, it pretty much was, so the low here was 211, and I think the high pre-market this day was, I think it was 205, 210. I mean, it pretty much peaked out right into this low. So again, look left to predict right. So with all of that said, VLRX is another example of that, but what I want to show here is, this is a similar situation where MDGS probably pukes out tomorrow, but I'm going to hope and, pray that it gaps up. It goes 280s, maybe pushes on 3. If so, I'd be looking for some type of, pullback just like this. So that was the trade that I took on VLRX, and I'm hoping for similar, higher the better, where it kind of gaps up and then it pulls back down. So gap up and maybe fade back off. So we'll see what happens. I'll fix this. This should read VLRX, not VRXL, but that's all right. OHRP, not something that I'm, in love with. It's got a nice, slow, steady grind. So, this type of trend, it's not like you can really trade any size. If you got a good average, good, let it work. But this is more of a, join the trend and see what it does type situation. If it starts to get some good volume, then I'm interested. This might have just been a cover into the close. If you notice, it pretty much was chilling most of the day, and then all of a sudden into the 330 mark, it started to go. So either it was a front load for a PR this week, or it was some buy-ins from the prior run, which was this day, which also had a newsletter. So that would also make sense, where some people might have shorted the newsletter, and then it started to close strong, so they went ahead and bailed on the position. So we've got 2 days with 1.5 million shares. Again, nothing crazy. So I'm going to assume that this might fail, and if it does, I'd love to fade it back down. But if it does hang out and it starts maybe 520s range, and it starts to rally back red to green, I'm interested. VVPR, same thing as MDGS and VLRX, I mean. Higher the better. Ideally, it comes back into 185s or a little bit higher, something like that. But I'm just looking for a quiet fade, and we'll see what happens from there. Obviously, it had trouble from its last run, and probably a lot of bag holders in there too. Hook, higher the better. This one I had traded. Everybody got excited. This is, again, a great example of, what FOMA looks like. The news comes out, everybody sees it, starts to go 8, 9, and all of a sudden it seems like a good idea to buy it at 11. Not so much. But if you look at back, this is in hindsight, obviously, but you're looking back and you can kind of see lower high, has trouble at this 9 level. And so at any rate, I got short and pretty much leaned on it throughout the midday session versus this 9 high. And my goal was to cover 870s. So I was, 780s. And I was actually at 787 filling, and then started to rebound. But at any rate, ended up being a great trade. What I'd want to see is potentially retest back up 20, 30 cents, maybe a little bit more, and then fade off. Or if it starts to base at 8s and rally back red to green, then I wouldn't be opposed to going long. So we'll find out real fast what way it wants to go. It doesn't have much chart history, so there's a lot of room to run. But at the same time, we just don't know. It gapped up, it faded off. 3 million shares. So what's going to happen is it's either going to, week open 20, 30 cents and come back, and we're going to have a nice move to 9 or 10 or higher. Or we're going to have a gap up 20, 30, 40 cents, rip 20 cents more, and then fade off, and it's going to close, on the lows, red, sub 8, 750, something like that. So two different ways, being prepared for both. I know there's going to be range on it. I just want to be familiar, prepared, and have a game plan for both ways. Similarly, INFY, I would also consider this like a transitional day where it didn't really do much, right? It tried to break out, failed. Tried to break down, got bought up. Tried to rebound, and it just pretty much went sideways all day. So basically, I call this a transitional day. We've talked about it before, just like IOVA, right? IOVA had that day where it kind of ramped up, failed to break out, failed to break down, and then the next days it started its trend. We saw that on AXSM, same candle right here. You saw it probably on AMRN when they did the news. It's a long time ago now, but this actually had opened up, gapped up, came all the way back, and then ended up coming back up. So maybe not as good of an example, but IOVA really drives home that point as well as AXSM. So hopefully that clears up kind of what I'm thinking. Whereas, usually the next day or two, the next 1, 2, 3 days starts to trend in whatever direction it wanted to. However, yesterday, in this case being Friday, INFY just it was going sideways. It's going to let new shorts in. It's going to let sellers out, new people taking positions in, and maybe there'll be some comments this week that could take it to the next level. So we'll see. I don't have a bias. I don't have a bias at all. So 1150 push and fails, I'd short it. But if it starts to base and looks like it wants to break out over 1150s, then I'd be long. CEI. Great commentary on Friday. I hope you guys saw that. I tried to tweet that kind of stuff just so you can kind of see the thought process behind it, kind of understanding, reading the tape, where shorts are kind of trying to drill it. SSR is on, they get caught, and then they blow them all out, and then that's their exit. A lot of people ask me questions about that. What do I mean by bids are gone? And if you think about it, shorts come in, and so they're running it all up. Let me just get this situated so you can see it. So it starts to squeeze, grind. They kind of set the trap here. They probably have a good portion of the float contained, and so they're just kind of slowly pushing until their exit. They're not putting the offers out there, and until the point where it starts to squeeze out, and then they squeeze everybody out, comes back in, stuffs, and that's it. And what I mean by that's it is everybody kind of blew out their covers. So all these people that are kind of bidding, think about it. When you're short the stock, you're like, I'm gonna try to bid for it 430s. It's starting to go. I'll bid for 440s. Oh, it's starting to break out. Let me just sit on there 460s. You kind of keep on inching up where you're gonna stop out. And there comes a point where you're like, all right, screw it. I'm just gonna swipe the offer. You end up swiping the offer. Guess what? Your bid's gone. So this is kind of what happens where, they end up going just enough to get everybody to stop out. So all of a sudden, all their covers come in, and then where's their bids? They're gone, right? Because they are out of the stock. And then that's why you get these really big whipsaw type candles. And at this point, I would assume that we are going to go the same way that it's been going for ages and ages and ages. And this daily chart's not updated on DAS, but I think you guys are pretty familiar with how this thing works, and they just like to sell paper. So higher the better. 4s, 420s would be ideal, and then potentially unwind again and maybe sub 3s, maybe even towards the low 2s near term. Overstock was prohibited in many of the clearing firms yesterday or Friday. So there's potential that there was a lot of forced buy-ins. If that was the case, then maybe there was a lot more buying pressure than normally would have. And if that is the case, then we might have a nice little unwind coming up. But for now, it's been a fantastic breakout. The key is really to just react to the move. So let it kind of slowly squeeze, and then react to any kind of breakout. I've had decent success on this one as far as letting it kind of do its thing and then react react to that big breakout that fails. If you are long on this name, you have to be cautious. It likes to take 30 cent, 40 cent type breaks, where it goes, comes back, all of a sudden it rips, comes back randomly, rips, comes back. So think about it big picture. Think about what you're trying to do. You can't be looking to risk, 5-10 cents. You got to be thinking, 30 to 50 cents for the $1 to $2 type move. So I'll have a lot more commentary on this one come Monday, Tuesday. Hopefully it goes back up to the 1950s. I would assume it wants to retest that. And if it starts to find a little bit of pressure there, you can see, it did have some pressure. There was one breakout through it. But for the most part, it found some resistance in the 1950s level. So that interests me. I take notes on that. And then I want to see it retest that level and see how it reacts. So for now, higher the better, obviously. But they've been starting to put out PRs left and right and just ridiculousness. It kind of reminds me of an OTC pump. So, expect the unexpected. It's got a huge short float, but, a lot of times when that happens, it's like that for a reason. FCEL, another one. Hopefully we have some type of action to take advantage of. I think that move to 30 cents was a little bit overkill. But as I had mentioned, the last Sunday scan, or at least around there in a tweet, July 12th was the day we're going to find out whether or not this thing was going to carry on, because they had their loans due, and people didn't like the language in the second 8K last night, or Friday night. As soon as the second 8K came out, there was a lot of default type language, and it ended up really coming apart. So I think just a lot of panic, and then nice little rally back to 50s. So if it opens low, I would consider it for a rally. If it opens high and ramps way up, then I would consider it for a fade. CARA, higher the better. But for now, if I want to get long, I want to see it kind of pull back towards this level where it broke out from. You can see it's kind of grinding and then pops up. I'd like it to come back, retest, and then join the trend. But sometimes this reverses rather quickly. So if it fails, if it has a weak open and it fails on red to green, then I'll fade it. PRVB, just a watch, nothing I'm too crazy about. You can kind of see a little bit of buying coming in here. Pretty consistent candles you can see down here. So somebody kind of came in and took a position there on Friday. But it's been pretty tight since the move. It had that huge squeeze day. They tried to get an offering off, and no dice, so they ended up withdrawing the offering. I think there's a lockup coming due. So they might start to try to get the PR machine rolling again, and if so, we're in the right market. It'll probably go. But I think that if and when that does happen, I think the short's going to be fantastic. We're going to finally break down. So whether or not it breaks out, we'll see. But it's going to be a situation where I don't want to be too aggressive on the front side, but I'd really like to be patient on the backside, because if it does go to 13, 14, maybe even 15, I'm not saying that I think it's going to, but if it were, I could see that thing coming right back down to under 10 fast. CRWD, staying on watch. Again, this is the part where I kind of fly through. I don't have plans for them. I just want to be familiar. I think there's going to be some great action on these. So CRWD, it's been a clean trade. You can see a nice little VWAP, ABCD type setup here. That's the kind of stuff I look for. These are just kind of back radar type plays. If there's nothing else that's happening in the market, then these are kind of go-tos for me. Work's been a steady unwinder. I think this continues to unwind until the day that we see it hold over VWAP 9:45, 10 a.m. plus, at which case I would love to join. I'd love to join when it does rally, because we're going to probably have $1 to $2 move, probably a relatively clean move. But for now, lower the better, and this to me appears like a steady pressure, steady seller all day. And you'll notice also the volume increase down here. So if I put the daily up here, you'll notice that it's the highest volume day that it's had in quite some time. So that signifies that either a lot of selling pressure, or at least a rotation of maybe there's a new batch of buyers coming in, and then in a couple days we get the rebound. So whatever the case is, I think we're going to have a nice clean $2 rally at some point here soon. Solely, good action, good opportunities. The last couple days, Friday, I had great entries here. I tried it one time. I tried it down here. I tried it down here, and even over here. But the only problem is I had great trades, and I put it on the offer. I wouldn't fill, and then it ended up coming back. So there was a lot of times I was up 60, 80, almost $1 plus, and unfortunately I had ended up minimizing those trades. IMUX gonna watch potentially T+2. It'd be great. This has been a fantastic swing. Nailed both these moves just because I had been kind of holding it for quite some time from this level over here. As you guys know, that was one of the swing trades I had mentioned a while ago. So it has gone 80% about 2 times now. FLKS, I don't know why people were chasing it. In my opinion, the 90 buyer got a little bit too aggressive, especially into the ones, and then they were trying to hold it and potentially break it back out. At least that's my read on it. I think he got stuck, so hopefully it does actually go 95s or $1 again, and there's just no reason for this to be up on that news. It was kind of ran into this, so I think it's going to be a sell the news event, but I welcome bids. I welcome higher. I'm hoping that we get a really big trade because these trades have been fantastic for us. That RVLT move, you guys saw that the short the other day into the parabolic move. Same thing, we had FCEL and we had a few others that day. So we'll see what happens with that. MU staying on watch. Like I said before, we're coming into some big chart resistance. So, we might be in a steady squeeze mode. I mean, who knows? This could go 45, 50 and really squeeze out. But every day that it keeps on going is one day closer to a really big, fantastic short. And I'm talking $3-4 per share, something like that. So hopefully it just keeps on going, 46, 47, 48. But we'll see what happens with that. And the last 2, QTT, higher the better there. This one's been staying pretty strong, but at the same time, it's been pretty weak. So what I mean by that is strong with the volume, strong rally, but it's started to get sat on, right? So it's been hanging around, and I think that it just has to churn through these covers, and then we might, pull back towards the 420s, 4s. And MAXR, staying familiar with this chart. Nothing I'm going to trade probably tomorrow, but higher the better, and I'm just looking either for the breakout or the breakdown. I just feel like range is close. RVLV, ZM, and AVTR, CHWY. All not that I'm going to trade them, just staying familiar with them. So not to overload different charts on scan, but like I said, I like to stay familiar with charts, see where they're at in their moves. And, just like we were watching it this day, you guys remember on the Sunday scan, I felt like there was $7 to $10 move close. And, that next day we had, I think, an $8 or $9 pullback. So I like to stay familiar with the action so that I can anticipate when this is going to happen. And so that's it, guys. So if you have any questions, reach out, leave a comment. Anytime, tweet me, comment section below at the bottom of this thing. Leave a comment right there. If you have any questions about Traders for a Cause, then email zach@tradersforacause.org, and more than happy to help you guys there. I hope to meet a lot of you guys in Vegas, and it's a great time every single year. And if you're not in the chat room yet, please reach out if you have any questions. We have a ton of new members. That's one other thing. We've got a webinar tomorrow night, which I will post and scan as well. I almost forgot about that, but we had a big inflow of new members over the last couple weeks. So I like to get everybody on the same page and make sure everybody's understanding things. So we're going to be doing that tomorrow night. And that, I think, will be 7 p.m., potentially 8, but I will put it in scan. And that's it, guys. So have a good rest of the weekend, and we'll see you in the room.